You're watching the Action Sports Jax 24/7 network. Now it's time for the Brent Austen Show.
Hey, there's a look at practice, and how about number 19 for C.J. Beathard?
All right. Yeah. Whatever works, man.
I was like, who is that?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
What a weird number for a quarterback. Well, you got to take what you got. And Jaguars have 4 quarterbacks, by the way, right now on the roster, and they added C.J. Beathard yesterday. Obviously a big story, and we got a little bit more out of that story yesterday while we were down at Jags headquarters. What does it mean as we welcome everybody into UNF Arena, as they've got a lot going on once again today as we come over here to the campus of the University of North Florida. Got volleyball practice as their season winds down. Obviously, the women played last night, and they got the men's yesterday morning, scored 146 points in basketball. And the men actually played tonight in the home opener, coming off that big win over South Carolina. So Matthew Driscoll's scheduled to join us. We're going to be joined by Jason Fitz a little bit later on. And we'll may even have an Iceman player on because they're back home after a road trip. So we got guests galore.
I like it,
lined up on the show. Let me move this camera a little bit. Which way should I go, Austin? There we go.
I don't know why you're asking me which way you should go with anything when it comes to cameras and lights and everything.
It was bothering me that we were a little off-centered, so I had to fix that.
Yeah.
Probably bothered anybody else watching, too. Maybe not as much as me. But, hey, the Jags headquarters was interesting to me yesterday. There continues to be a faction of people that think, like, hey, this wasn't just about an injury to Trevor Lawrence, but this is about Trent Baalke making moves for down the road. And, like, I got that a little. I was like, I don't think so, man. I think this is all about this week. And Trevor, he's obviously sore, and Trevor might not be able to go. And, I mean, why would you bring a quarterback in to occupy for 3 weeks a spot on the roster if you didn't think you might need him in some capacity? Now, they do have John Reese Plumlee. I mean, why did they bring Beathard in when they could have gone to Plumlee as an emergency quarterback if Trevor can't go and Mac Jones plays?
I mean, obviously, I just think it comes down to Plumlee being versed in the offense compared to Beathard, and obviously Beathard having more experience where if you did need an emergency quarterback, I think you feel more comfortable with Beathard in there. Them bringing Beathard in, if Trevor doesn't go, just shows me that they're obviously still trying to win football games. Yeah. Well, at least I hope that's what the case is.
Well, yeah, I think that's probably going to be the case. Do you think, hearing what you heard yesterday, hearing Trevor talk, seeing Trevor out at practice in a limited fashion, I mean, don't you feel like he's playing?
Yeah, my biggest worry is that he wants to play and he feels like he's going to be able to play, and they're going to, err on the side of caution with him for whatever reason, because maybe the season's a wash already, maybe because they want to see Mac Jones. I don't know, but that's my only worry, is that Trevor is going to feel good enough to go, and then they're going to decide that he can't go. They're going to say he can't go, and that can lead to some kind of discrepancies down the line.
Yeah. Do you think in any respect, I mean, let's talk all around this thing because there's conspiracy theories all over the place.
Sure.
Do you think what we mentioned yesterday is like, hey, does it save you if Trevor doesn't play, right? Does it go into the equation of coming back next year as a front office, as a coaching staff, if Trevor misses a couple of games? And while you're losing these games, as he's out, and it just kind of goes to the excuse board, if you will, when you make your case later on.
I don't think it's going to be an excuse. I think what you are is your record, despite the injuries and despite the positions that get injured. I mean, I was talking about a team like the Green Bay Packers, who have invested a lot of money and a lot of resources into Jordan Love. He goes down. They bring in Malik Willis, who we've seen firsthand how bad he was in Tennessee. He goes to Green Bay and wins some football games and helps beat the Jacksonville Jaguars. So, I think there's good teams who can overcome injuries, even at the most, important spots. And there's bad teams that want to point and say, well, we didn't win because this guy got hurt. And obviously I think that the Jags right now kind of fall on the ladder. And if I'm Shad Khan, that's not going to be an excuse good enough to, try to salvage a job if we're talking about, 4 or 5 wins at the end of the season.
Fred Martineau, Austin Lane here at the University of North Florida as the Ospreys get set to host their home opener against Charleston Southern, by the way. So this is going to be a good opponent if you want to check out some basketball here in the area. UNF's Icelandic connection on the show today.
Let's go, man.
we probably should.
Let's go.
Get them on the show. We can learn a little bit more about the UNF women's basketball team. We also got icy white helmets is dope. I actually heard that from Josh Hines Allen as well. He said dope.
Cool.
The players seem to like the icy white helmets.
Sure.
They're excited about it.
Yeah. Good for them. Yeah, I mean, like, yeah, I mean, I don't mind them, like, seeing the video there. I think they look pretty cool. But also, I think it's like, you know, with how the season's gone, like, I just think fans are kind of like, can we just get some wins over the helmets, you know?
Tyson Campbell was interesting because he said, I didn't get to wear the throwbacks, he'll get to wear them in the Jets, but he missed that game.
Sure.
So now he's excited about, like, wearing these helmets. And I also thought the Tyson Campbell stuff, now he didn't say much about the matchup with Justin Jefferson. He was very quiet yesterday when we interviewed him, but I think it's an interesting matchup. We talked about this a little bit yesterday, how dangerous he is. And Justin Jefferson 25-plus yard catch in every game so far this season for the Minnesota Vikings. Would you travel Tyson Campbell, or would you trust what's on the other side if they move Justin Jefferson around?
I mean, it's a good question. You know, I think it comes down to where Tyson Campbell feels comfortable. Like, does he like a side, or does he prefer to travel? I mean, I kind of put it on him, just because, like, okay, if you travel with Justin Jefferson, someone still has to stop Addison. You know, like, they have other weapons. So, yeah, I guess I'd put my best corner. I mean, if I'm Ryan Nielsen, yes, I would put my best corner on Justin Jefferson and say, you know, let's try to stop him here. But, like, if, once again, you go in motion and you play the sides of the field, if Tyson Campbell doesn't feel comfortable with one side of the field, then I would probably scheme more of a zone coverage to try to stop it.
All right, we'll talk a little bit more about that game. I want to get some quick reaction about Jarian Jones. And, Hamby, I don't know if you've got that ready to go. I know we don't usually go to sound so early, but I thought Jarian Jones was really good.
It's funny.
Yesterday.
Yeah.
Oh, did you see some of it?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, good. But the idea that, like, you know, moment like that, you wonder if anybody even wants to talk about it, especially in a losing effort, right? And 2-7, the way this season's going. The young man out of Florida State, I thought he was terrific. He like, the players were kind of joking with him, and they were like, "Well, hey, we're going to." They're going to probably want to talk to you about that play, right? You could start hearing them, and then we're like, "Okay, let's all go over here and gently." How do we ask this guy about getting hurdled?
Sure.
And I just thought he did a terrific job. Just having fun with it, right? It's a moment that you really can't do much about. And I ended up asking him about that. Like, what was he supposed to do? Like, what could he have done more on that play from a defensive standpoint? Like, I look at it and I'm like, I don't know. He's in tackling form, right? Like, what are you supposed to do?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, there's not much you really can do. You know, I mean, he alluded to, it's not like he, like, was ducking down for the tackle. He was kind of straight up. I mean, literally the only thing, and I get, like, tackling now has changed, you know, since I played. I mean, if you want to try to, like, extend your arms and wrap up and hopefully catch an ankle or a leg and kind of flip him over. But once again, like, this is just, Saquon Barkley's a freak of nature. And, yeah, I agree with Jerry. There's not much you could do there.
All right, so let's listen to Jarian Jones. He did have a little fun with the media with it, and really was a good soundbite yesterday when it comes to the Saquon Barkley backwards hurdle.
I ain't tripping about it, yeah. Okay. He touched by God. That was a hell of a play. I don't know how I don't know how he thought about that, but that was a hell of a play.
Is it crazy that that's going to be his highlight clip forever, and you're, like, part of it?
I mean, it is what it is, but I still watch the play and be like, I don't know how the hell he thought about that, but I mean, I ain't really tripping about it.
Does it make you feel better? What are you going to do? What are you supposed to do, right? I mean, you're kind of in tackling form. Is there anything else you could even do on that play?
I mean, yeah, it ain't really too much you can't do. I feel like anybody that really got something to say about it, I would love for them to tell me exactly what they would have did.
When you saw the replay for the first time, did it just like, what was your initial reaction? Like, wow, did he really do that?
If you watch, I know they just showed the highlight, but if you watch, like, after the play, like, after he jumped, I looked back at him, I was like, I don't know how he did it. But, he touched by God.
Did you see it on the replay board first, or did you see it?
Hell no, I ain't see it on the replay. I seen his ass jump right over me.
True. Okay.
How much respect? I mean, you guys are a 1% league, and not too many guys can do what you do, but then he can do stuff that maybe is different than even most can.
Yeah, I got a lot of respect for him. That's the first time that's ever been done in history. I mean, he kind of hurdled me backwards, you know. So, I got a lot of, respect for him, because I don't think nobody else in the league can actually make that play and successfully hurdle me. Like, it ain't like I went low or nothing like that. Like, I was standing up tall and he still hurt me. So, ain't not too many people that can do that.
You're willing to talk about it. You look like you're having fun with it. It's okay.
Yeah, I ain't tripping about it. Saquon, hey, what else you can do about it? It is what it is.
Hey, more X's and O's. What do you guys have to do to stop giving up so many explosives?
I think just trust that the other 10 on the field are going to be there to do their job. I think sometimes I can speak for myself. I kind of get caught in trying to make the big play. Sometimes you just got to trust, do your job, and trust that the other people on the field are going to be doing their job. So I think that's a big thing we got to do.
What do you see on Minnesota's receivers? I know they obviously got Justin Jefferson, but they spread it around a little bit.
They got a good group. They got to have a good passing attack. Throw the ball everywhere. So I think we just got to read our keys. And play solid ball.
That is Jarian Jones, and just really fun stuff, I think. It's hard to be fun and loose, and this team continues to be, I'll tell you that. Like I say, I give you like the weekly vibe check on the locker room, sure. And listen, it is what it is right now, and I think we've seen locker rooms that look panicked, look kind of freaked out, look angry, looked fun and excited and full of momentum. I don't know how to describe this one. I don't want to say they've accepted what they are, but they just know that there's like one or two or three plays and it's sure. The other way this season, and it's like, okay, we got to go make the plays. Like, what else you want us to do about it? We got to either do it on Sunday or not. And that's why I continue to think this is such a unique year covering the Jaguars. Gene Fredette even was saying to me yesterday, he's like, if they lose another game by like 3 points in the last couple of minutes, like, I'm not sure what I'm writing.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, how many times can we skin this cat, right? I mean, how many times can you say it the way, just go make some plays and win the football game and get off to a faster start and get better third downs and don't give explosive plays. Like, you just got to do it, man. We've been saying that, though, since like week 2.
No, I mean, we're definitely a broken record at this point, and I get being a little more, well, especially with Jarian Jones. I mean, listen, with that play, like, I'm glad he's not like, down in the dumps about it, just because like it's something that you had never seen before, right? And honestly, in my 36 years, I've never seen it, and I may never see it again. Like, it's just that special of a play. And yeah, I think it kind of sucks that you're gonna always be tied to that play now if you're Jarian Jones. But at the same time, it's like, hey, what am I supposed to do there? There's literally nothing he can do. So you just you accept it. You tip your hat to Saquon Barkley, who's a freak of nature, and say, man, like, props to you. You did something that no one's ever seen before. So when it comes to the attitude of the locker room, yeah, I mean, it does seem like, it's a little more laid back, which is good. Like, you don't want to press and everything. But you also don't want to give off the vibe that you're comfortable losing.
That's right.
Right? That you're complacent losing, that it's acceptable to lose. And yeah, whether, like, listen, when the season's done, let's say 3 or 4 years from now, when the season's over and we're far beyond what's happened this year, we're not going to go back and say, whoa, remember like that season, like, yeah, maybe they won 4 or 5 games, but it should have been a lot more because, they lost like these 1-score games. Like, no, like eventually either you win or you lose. And it's simple as that. And this team right now has to figure out how to finish games, has to figure out how to deal with adversity, and has to figure out how to, obviously win at the end of the day. And until they do that, doesn't matter if it's by 7 points or it's by 14 points or, even worse. It's just, you are who you are.
You say that, and you're right. Like, you don't want to be complacent. You want to accept losing. And I don't know how to phrase. That's why I'm being very careful with my phrasing. I don't think this team has like said, okay, we just stink and we're going to lose. And because there are teams that like know they're not good, and they do say that. They're kind of like, you can feel that. You're like, okay, this is going to be tough to win football games. Sure, right? But we're going to still battle. And in Jacksonville, I haven't covered a lot of teams that have just laid down. I really haven't. Like, yeah, but most teams keep battling.
Well, of course, because there's a sense of pride. Like, as a man, you're not just going to want to go out there and say, hey, I enjoy losing every single week. Let me go ahead and give half my effort. Like, look at the Panthers. Like, they're essentially, you lose your best receiver, Deontay Johnson. You get rid of him and everything. And you have injuries and, the whole Bryce Young situation. Like, they're not a good football team.
No.
But, like, they still had pride enough to play at home and say, you know what, we're not going to lose the Saints today. So, I mean, every team's going to play with pride. If you're not, then I don't think, playing football is the right sport for you.
Yeah, I get it. But what's weird about this one, to go back just one more time on it, is they know they're better. Like, they think they're better. Now, I don't know if they're as good as they thought they were or think they are, right, overall, because sooner or later you'd win some football games if that's the case. But internally, I'm just trying to give you the temperature on them. They think they're pretty good. Like, they see good things. They see a lot that they can hang their hat on, other than getting W's. And just go back to it, until you win football games, like, How much are you going to say? But I was really impressed with Jarian. We'll have more sound. Josh Allen hit on like a million different. I mean, he held court for like 12, 15 minutes yesterday.
Yeah.
I don't know exactly how long the interview was, but it felt like that long. We actually had a chance to catch up with all three quarterbacks, which is pretty unusual too in a week, right?
Yeah.
Usually just talking to Trevor Lawrence, but Mac Jones and also CJ Beathard talked. So get to some of that throughout the show. It might be very interview heavy today, but I think the sound's pretty good. And also at 1 o'clock, we'll have all the sound from the locker room on the Action Sports Jacks 24/7 network. We call the show The Locker Room appropriately, and it airs at 1 o'clock to 1:30, followed by a replay of Jags Report Live at 1:30 on the Action Sports Jacks 24/7 network, actionnewsjacks.com, Action News Jacks app, and Action News Jacks now on your smart TV. William says finishing 7-10 or 8-9 seems likely, but would feel like it's a 4-win season.
Yeah.
And I'm curious about that because there are people like me that still believe they're going to go on a little bit of a run once they find it, especially that late season schedule looks pretty soft compared to what they've had to play against really this first 9 games, 10 games, really 11 games once the Detroit stuff is over. I mean, it's really been a difficult start to the year anyway, especially with the way they've played at times. How do you view that? And I'm not talking about the save the coach, save the front office. I'm talking about the momentum of the organization. Do you start thinking, okay, draft pick matters? Or do you start thinking, hey, listen, winning is important around here. We can't go back to 2 wins and 3 wins and 4 wins kind of season. Again, not in the context of saving jobs. How important is it for this football team to get wins, do you think? This franchise to get wins down the stretch?
You absolutely have to get wins, especially with the roster that's constructed, because we've alluded to this. They have talent. It's not like a 2-win, 3-win team that you saw, years ago from this team where it's like, you see who they have in their team. This is kind of expected. This isn't expected. So I think in terms of momentum going into next year, whether Doug Peterson and company are here or not, you have to win games. You have to build. You have to hang your hat on something, because it's probably not going to be a playoff run. It's probably not going to be a divisional title. So then what do you hang your hat on? You got to hang your hat on, at least we end this season strong. And thankfully, if you look at the schedule, there are some teams that appear beatable. But I'm not going to sit here and say, all right, 7-8 wins until I see the third one. Okay, you have to walk before you can run, and right now, I need to see this team walk first, but I can say, okay, I like this team against the Jets. I like this team against the Raiders. They can beat the Titans twice. Sure, on paper, absolutely. But once again, what we've seen on paper and what we've seen from this team on the field are 2 giant different things.
Yeah, no doubt. But I do think I agree. You've always said this, just so you know Austin's background on it. When people are saying tank for Trevor, right, or lose football games, Austin's not a believer in that at all in the NFL. For these guys, for the organization, for anything else.
I mean, from a player's perspective, no one buys into that.
Yeah.
Because it's a losing mentality. It's a loser mentality, and I've never been about that. And I think every player in that locker room has never been about that.
And I think see what you just said there to me is important for this franchise, for inside the walls of the franchise, for the whatever it is that's missing in this franchise. Why the Jags are 2-7 right now? That's what we get. What are they missing? What is it? I don't know. You don't know. Yeah. They don't know. Shad doesn't know. They would have figured that out if we knew. It's an abnormal state of losing over the last decade plus by NFL standards. And so I think to go 9-8, 9-8, and then 4-13 sends you back to the basement. I will just remind you what I said at the outset of this year, at the outset of this offseason. We said it was the biggest offseason yet. Well, it was a huge offseason. It was a monster one. We thought it was a good one. We thought things were trending as a bounce back way from that epic collapse in a good direction. Then we said, hey, this is a huge season. You're either going to win and sustain winning and get back to the top of the division and be a team that you just signed your quarterback and your core players to and move on for the next few years and be a contender, a playoff contender at the very least every single year, or you're going to potentially slide all the way back to the basement because you had lost 5 out of 6 games. You had missed the playoffs. You had that's an embarrassment to the organization. Well, so far, they're going all the way back. They're picking second right now in the NFL draft. I actually think for the makeup of this organization, while it would muddy some things up in terms of who do you keep, how close are you, how far are you, it would do. I just think that it's so important to win football games here in Jacksonville, as many as possible, for Trevor Lawrence to turn the tide of his overall career record, for Shad Khan to his overall record as an owner of the Jags, for just in general, finding W's down the stretch of this season is paramount to me. And I don't think they're going to the playoffs, folks. This isn't to say, hey, they could win 7-8. Look how they could get in the playoffs. I was doing that a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
I thought if they beat the Packers, I thought they had a chance to maybe, okay, we could do something here because, like, this week, who are the Texans playing coming off a loss? They're playing the Lions, right? So there's things like that. I'm not doing that. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about win games because you've got to know what it's like to win games. This team right now knows what it's like to lose games. And I thought they had the slump busters out of the organization or in the organization multiple times in the last 4 years. Trevor Lawrence and Urban Meyer. I still can't believe those two combined won just 2 football games. It never happened in their life. Now you've got Trevor Lawrence and Doug Peterson. Again, Doug knows how to win football games in the National Football League. Now, right now, he doesn't. He's lost 12 out of his last 15. Trevor Lawrence, one of the great winners, has lost 12 out of his last 15 football games. His career record now is something like 20-37 or 21-38, whatever it is, right? They've got to win. And even if it's at the expense of picking in the top 10, picking in the top 5, I don't care. I think they need to win. It will muddy things up potentially if they get to like 7 wins, but I don't care about that either. Figure it out once you get there. Winning is paramount right now in these last 8 games.
No, you've accustomed yourself. I think you're getting comfortable losing. I really do. And listen, this is coming from somebody who played on a 2-win team here in Jacksonville and then went to a 2-win team in Kansas City that same year. And there's a lot of differences. Obviously, like Kansas City had a little more talent than Jacksonville did. But the biggest thing is that you had a coach in Andy Reid who had a direct message, and you had players in that locker room who conveyed that message. Like the Eric Berries, the Derek Johnsons, the Alex Smiths, I'm trying to think, like even like the Dwayne Bowes, like there is no way in hell that they would let a season go where you win, like where you lose like 4 in a row again, because they obviously had a season where it was a nightmare, and I think a lot had to do with coaching and everything, and they got the coaching out. But like you just got this sense in training camp that like, hey, we're not going to go through this again, and there's no way in hell we're going to go through this again because number one, we're too talented, but number two, like it's just our makeup. And I think right now, you did bring in some veterans from other teams, but I think you're still missing a little bit of that makeup right now that says like, hey guys, this slide can't happen. Here's how we change it. And we talk about this every single week in the press conference. It seems like nobody has answers right now in terms of how to change it.
Yeah, I agree, man. But anyway, so that's I thought I liked the comment by William Torres there because yes, it would feel like a lost season. It's a lost season, folks. It does. But I still think getting to 7 wins would be, well, I mean, if you got to 8, heck, that'd be even better. But if you get to 7, I feel like you can build off that, and they've got to feel good inside. It doesn't make you feel better. They need to feel the winning feeling inside the building. Trevor Lawrence can't keep overcoming all these negative things year after year, especially if they were to make another coaching change. He would have like his 3rd coach in 5 years, right? Sure. So like these things, I know they're little things, whatever. No, I've seen it. We've seen it for 15 years, 16 years. Like, they are bigger things than you think that add up in a small way.
Here's what I'll be watching too as well is how Trevor Lawrence, like how they're going to handle the situation. Because if he doesn't play, then there better be communication from Trevor Lawrence and this team saying, yeah, I just can't go. My body does not allow me to go. Because the last thing I want to hear, and I can see this happening a mile away, and I don't want to go through this, is Trevor saying, hey, I'm feeling pretty good. I'm about 80%. I feel like I can give the best team the chance to win. And the Jaguars go, we're just going to sit you down, man, because, you see the record and everything. And, because, I'm not comparing this with James Robinson, but we saw this story when you're trying to get Trevor Lawrence years ago where I think James Robinson could have went, but you want to get Trevor Lawrence, more power to you. So you decided to go, hey, James, man, we appreciate what you did for this team, all this stuff. Yeah, you're not going to get your, player performance bonus probably like you want it this year, but we're going to need you to sit out a little bit just because, we're trying to get Trevor Lawrence. I don't want to see that this year. All right. If Trevor's good enough to go and Trevor says that he can go, then let him go. Yeah. If we're having the conversation and Trevor's like, I told him I can go, but they want me to go. Yeah, we're going to have even bigger issues.
Well, then you got the whole, you'd be having the Hurts Sudfeld kind of scenario again, potentially too.
Yep.
Like,
and we saw how that shook out in Philly.
Yeah, well, I don't think we're on the verge. I think
what
Trevor's
a blow on the season that would be.
Yeah, I think Trevor's going to play. Let's take a timeout. When we come back, we'll talk more about the Jags. I think Josh Allen had a bunch of stuff to say. Like, there's a laundry list of things to say that were pretty interesting on Josh Allen. So we might even hear that whole thing coming up. We still have Jason Fitz is going to join us at 11. We'll talk a little bit more big picture around the NFL, his thoughts even on the Jacksonville Jaguars. And a little bit later on, hopefully Matthew Driscoll will join us. Maybe even have a little Iceman chatter. A bunch of guests here on a Thursday. Hope you're doing well. We're live at University of North Florida. 7 o'clock tip tonight against Charleston Southern. Come on out to the nest as the Ospreys are coming off that big win against South Carolina. And don't forget Jaguars All Access tonight as well, 7 o'clock at String Sports Brewery. I'm going to do both. I'm going to go to All Access, then I'm going to come over here to a little bit of the basketball game as well at UNF Arena. You can watch it on Fox 30 tonight, but Evan Ingram, Jags tight end, is our guest tonight at Jaguars All Access in Springfield at String Sports Brewery.
Welcome back to the Brent and Austin Show, streaming on the Action Sports Jax 24/7 network.
Hey, we'll welcome you back to Brent and Austin Show on the Action Sports Jax 24/7 network. We are at the University of North Florida, hanging out in the suites and watch a little volleyball practice. Volleyball team, I'll tell you about in just a moment, but that's Jags practice right there. And then the white helmets are obviously a thing. They got to practice in those yesterday, and Keelan Robinson, I think, is who we're showing. So the Jaguars, could they get him back? Right? Dewey Wingard looks like he'll come back this week. They opened the practice window for Devin Duvernay. It's a really weird deal. The Jags are actually, in one respect, getting healthy, while they also had these major injury to Christian Kirk.
Yeah.
And now we've got Trevor to deal with. But, like, on a whole, you look at their injury report is actually pretty long. But, like, I kind of feel like for this point in the season, in my opinion, when you don't lose people for the season, like you're doing better than others.
Of course.
And Kirk obviously is a big loss.
Yeah.
But it's not like they've got 5-6 guys. Well, they just lost Cooper Hodges.
Yeah.
So now you got 2.
Yeah.
But again, I mean, I don't know what the over-under on losing guys for the year is. And you never wish that
every
on
team
anybody.
goes through at least a couple of them.
But you got to think like 3 to 5 of them probably.
It's kind of par for the course, I feel like.
Right?
Yeah.
And that's just the nature of the game. Back here at UNF Arena, just a quick thought on as the volleyball team's wrapping up practice. They'll play tomorrow. They've only got a couple games left. Play West Georgia. Let's just double check. I think that game was right here at home. Yes, it is. And then they play on Saturday against Queens. So a lot of events going on this weekend in Jacksonville. A little sports for everybody. And the volleyball team wrapping up their fall season. The basketball team's obviously just starting this week. And we got the Iceman in town on Friday and Saturday. We're scheduled to talk to an Iceman player a little bit later on in the show. So we'll have that. So before we get to all that fun stuff, let's make sure we're talking a little bit more football. And I mentioned Josh Allen held court for quite a while. And we'll hear a couple of different parts on Josh. And first, we'll get to him on Jarian Jones, just kind of put a bow on that topic.
Yeah.
And then there's some other ones that I think are a little bit more interesting that might carry a little longer conversation that Josh had to say. I want to get your thoughts on. But, Hamby, if we can, let's listen to Josh talking about Jarian Jones and the Saquon Barkley play. And what I found interesting here is how he ends up complimenting Jarian Jones. I think there's a lot of respect for how the young corner out of Florida State is playing so far this season.
And Jarian, the spotlight Jarian had this year, man, he's a hell of a player, as a rookie. So it's not like he has a bad player. There's great guys on that man's highlight tape who he's done that to. So just reminder, like, yeah, you probably gonna see it, but also again when they look at who was that player, they're gonna see he's a shutdown slot slot guy who a lot of people don't throw the ball to. So. Try to keep giving that confidence to him and keep playing with that swagger that he does, and it happens to the best of us. I remember when I got stiff arm. Now let me not say that. Let me not bring that up for somebody looks that up and I gotta look at that. But yeah, I'd have made somebody highlight tape before, but somebody's also done made my highlight tape. You know what I mean? So that's just the way the games go. But regardless of whatever, I've never seen that before, and that was kind of crazy. I couldn't appreciate it after. I could not appreciate it, but it was like after the game, I was like, damn. During the game, I was like, don't even think about it. But after the game, I was like, damn, this dude really just jumped over this dude back. Right. It's crazy. But he's a heck of a player, though.
Man.
I like Josh, man. He's real, isn't he? And,
yeah.
It got me thinking. It was like, I love that part of this. And I brought this up to Jarian in my questioning.
Yeah.
When you get these kind of players and you get that kind of wow factor from the player that you're trying to tackle, or you think you're better than, or you think you're equal to, and you see a guy that can just do things on a different level. It's out here on a basketball court from Michael Jordan to LeBron James to Kobe Bryant to you name it, right? To out there in the NFL. I just find that like that's a world we can't even I can't fathom. You can, you did it, but like I can't fathom. Us on the outside can't fathom, and I don't think we acknowledge that enough. I told you this recently. I said, we don't talk about guys that actually get cut from the NFL or don't make it in the NFL is they made it to the NFL. Like the view of the outside people is, oh, that guy sucks.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, come on now. We're talking about a different animal. And I don't think we ever really put that in full perspective or stop and do it once in a while. I try to remind my kid of that all the time. I'm like, you can sit here and crush this guy or do this or whatever, and that's part of being a fan. But remember, they're doing something that you can't do. You know? And once in a while, you get reminded of that. And that Josh stuff kind of leads to that, right? Like, because they even were wowed by what Saquon Barkley did. Do you remember, like, when you were playing? Was there a wow moment? Was it Calvin Johnson who played in Detroit? What was the wow play for you?
I mean, Calvin Johnson was the guy that I always made a habit to, like, you know, when we came off the field, I was watching the sidelines because, like, it just for as tall and as big as he was, just how quick and the way that he could just move and catch. I mean, just it's something I never saw before, you know. And I played with other great receivers too, but like he was different, you know. The wow moment for me, and I've told this story before on the old show, was when I was it was my rookie year. And we were in Indianapolis, I believe. I can't think it was like second to last game in Indy. And obviously, you know, Peyton Manning was a guy that we really respected going against. And we had a call on where essentially, you know, I was playing left defensive end. And it was my job to drop in the flat, and you know, we call it seam flat, right? So it was my job to drop seam flat. And in this play, before, like, you know, the snap, I casually just like glanced my eyes a little bit to make sure, like, okay, we have two receivers on my side, so I got to go, okay, I think I have to drop a little bit more because I have to make sure that I can kind of disrupt that route. So I literally, like, I don't even like turn my head. I just kind of like look over there to see, okay, this is where I'm going. Manning sees it. Peyton Manning literally sees me take like a wink to the side, and he goes, check lane, check lane, check lane. I go, oh no. So then, like, and I've said this before, so like when he goes check lane, like, number one, Peyton Manning knew my name, so that was pretty cool. That was pretty cool. So then, like an idiot, because I'm like a deer in the headlights, I don't know what to do now. So I stand up and I go, hey, Manny, I start saying Manning, like, doesn't do anything, but like I'm trying to purvey the fact, like, okay, he's checking something, so now I'm gonna check something, which makes zero sense. But like, once again, rookie out of Murray State, didn't know what was going on, and all of a sudden he motions I think it was Dallas Clark. It was one of I want to say it was Dallas Clark, but it was one of the tight ends over. So now I have trips to my side. And the rule states that when you go trips, well, then I have to take the three receiver.
Oh, wow.
When he brought over, and he knew this, he goes, go over more. So, like, usually if you bring, okay, so for instance, for like the casual person, if you have two wide receivers to your side and you bring a tight end in motion, 9 times out of 10, that tight end's going to be on the line of scrimmage then, and I'm going to be outside of him. He told, I think it was once again Dallas Clark, to go outside of me. So it was a trips bunch, but it was with a tight end. So now I'm like, well, what the hell do I do? Because I'm supposed to take the three receiver. I'm in my stance, and he's like 3 yards to the left of me. So then I'm like, do I call timeout? I'm a rookie. So I'm like, all right, crap. I'm just going to, like, as fast as I can go, get out of my stance, go take, you know, Clark, whatever, and hope that I can catch him. And lo and behold, the play is snapped. Clark goes on a go route. I don't have the athleticism to try to match that from my stance to try to get Dallas Clark, and they score a touchdown because of it.
Really?
Yeah. And all because I literally just, like, didn't even turn my head. I just looked to my left, and Manning saw that, and he knew, like, I was going to drop seam flat. Let's bring Dallas Clark over, put him in trips, and that way I have to take the three guy. Now, we get to the sideline, and I'm like, Coach Chuck, like, should I call timeout? There's like, no, don't call timeout. I'm like, well, what am I supposed to do there? He's like, that was a good play by them. I'm like, Oh, okay. So I just get like highlighted. I get embarrassed. People are like, I'm sure on Twitter saying, "What is Lane doing?" And that's all we got is, "It's a good play. It's a good call." I'm like, okay. But then we talked about it after. He's like, "Yeah, don't tip off anything." Like, tip off anything? I literally looked to my left.
Yeah, he saw the eye.
But he saw it.
He read your eye.
Yeah. So that was kind of like my welcome to the NFL moment.
I feel like I've heard that story.
I've told it before.
That's wild.
Yeah.
What's interesting there for you is, you get off the hook. You get off a hook on that play because nobody knows all the inside stuff until you tell it later.
But Brent, it doesn't look good when my back's turned. I'm trying to sprint after the tight end, and he's got a touchdown.
But the D coordinator always gets hammered for
True,
that.
Yeah,
They're like, what the hell is Lane?
Yeah, why is he on me? Yeah.
You know how that goes.
Yeah.
We say it all the time.
But it was wild, though, because, obviously there's so many checks and things that you have to know, right? And, and I knew them all. But, this was the one formation that I had never seen before in practice. We never gone over it.
Yeah.
So, what do I do if I have the 3-man, but he's, so wide because he's in Tripp's bunch, which we've never seen before on film. But once again, that's the greatness of Peyton Manning.
I really like asking these guys about the plays, and this is where I don't like Doug's lack of transparency sometimes. But on Monday, he was very good about, it wasn't specific plays, but he gave you a little bit inner look of what they're going through. Now, it was a long explanation, but at least he gave you a little bit more insight. He's playing ball with you a little bit.
Yeah.
He's not assuming that everybody knows. Listen, our job's to ask questions because everybody doesn't know what's going on. And so when you say a play like that, I love those kind of things. And I don't know if everybody else does or whatever. I get it's part of the game. But, I asked Kirk recently at an All Access about the 3rd and 5 play where they were in London and they threw behind the line of scrimmage. And he ended up coming around and just saying, hey, listen, sometimes they win the chess match.
Yeah, that's exactly what.
But none of us want to accept that. On the outside, they're like, why did you call that play? Why did you do that play? Why did you do on the 4th and 1 play? Well, we've hammered it the other day where they throw it instead of QB sneak it.
Yeah.
I think that's outsmarting yourself, quite frankly.
Sure.
But at the same time, I think it's fair to say, guess what? The Eagles also won the chess match on that play. Mm-hmm. They defended it very well.
Yeah.
And nobody talks about that stuff. I think it's fun to hear that later on.
Of course. This is why, Peyton Manning is one of the best to ever do it because he was such a cerebral assassin. Athletic, not really. No. Arm strength, it was pretty good and everything. But like you mentioned, the chess match, he was 4 or 5 moves ahead of everybody else. The whole thing of playing defense is, okay, you do your job. Sometimes you put disguises, but you keep the quarterback guessing. Peyton Manning always knew what you're going to do. Right? So if you know that, then you have the supreme confidence saying, okay, I know they're going to go here. I'm going to call this audible right here and it'll be open. It was just, you're almost beat before the game even started because he was that far ahead of everybody else. And in terms of chess, he was kind of like the grand wizard.
And quite frankly, I think this is why it's hard to evaluate a player like Trevor Lawrence because we don't know how good he is at the chess match.
Yeah.
There's things that you have to do at the line of scrimmage. There are just some quarterbacks that are never going to make it because of all those things. There are some coaches that can coach it better and dumb it down, if you will, for you. And I don't mean from a stupid standpoint. I mean from just some people are better at that IQ part of the game, right?
Yeah.
Some linebackers or whatever else are more instinctual. Some are more talented. Everybody's got their own gifts.
Yeah.
And listen, Trevor's a smart guy. Trevor knows how to play the position, but he's 24. He doesn't know how to play the position like Peyton Manning knew how to play the position by 30 or whatever else, right?
No one
Peyton
does,
was
though,
always gifted in that sense.
Yeah.
So anyway, I just think there's more to it, and sometimes it's okay to say that. Even though most of the times we don't have that perspective. All right, more from Josh Allen. Listen to what he has to say. Have you ever played rocks, paper, scissors to get into a game?
Can't say that I have, Brent. Can't say that I have.
There's something fun about this, but also I think some people would say concerning about this.
Yeah.
Here is Josh Allen on the Trayvon Walker touchdown.
The funny thing, the best thing about that play wasn't even the play itself. It was the fact that I was on the sideline. So crazy story about that game. So right before we went out, we do rock, paper, scissors, shoot. Because we know Eric is going to start. So me and Trey's all right, who's going to? So we always play rock, paper, scissors, shoot. So he beat me 2 out of 3. It's shit. All right, so I'm sitting there. This first play back, I'm watching. And then he gets the ball. And then I hear the silence. They're like, just go down, Trayvon. I said, shut up. No, go score. It was almost like a back and forth. So it was just so funny to me, man. And just to see him go out there, I just was waiting for him to score so I could run out on the field. Because I was like, don't run, Josh. Wait. And so as soon as he hit it, I was out there because, that's my brother, man. And I love when he makes plays, just like he loves when I make plays. But I wanted to be right there to support him, show him how huge that play was. You know, we kind of got this thing, man, where it's like, you know, I'm getting pressure, whatever, but like we look to each other and be like, hey, we need you. You know what I mean? And plays like that gets made. You know, if it's him or it's me, but like, you know, he comes out to me, he's like, hey, bro, I didn't make no plays in the pass rush. It's like, dude, you affected the game. We're telling about I need you. It's not that I need you in the pass rush. I need you to affect the game. And that's exactly what you did. You gave us that spark. You put us back in a reasonable game to be like, it's a 4-quarter game. Because they could have easily went lopsided. But we stayed competitive. We stayed with that passion. We stayed with that fire. Like, if we keep doing what we're doing, we're going to put ourselves in position to win this game. And he made a play for us, man, and it was huge. But that ranks pretty high. I just wanted to say that.
I don't know if he should have said that. Listen, there's a lot that I like about this, first of all, and there's a lot of layers. There's the rock, paper, scissors part of it. There's can this team perform without Josh Hines Allen and Trayvon Walker on the field? And then there's also this admiration for this relationship that has grown between Josh Hines Allen and Trayvon Walker. One that I think that if Calais had stayed with Josh for even another year or so, we would have even seen more of. But we're seeing it, and I think it's a really cool relationship. Like again, hard to say all these nice little fluffy things in a 2-7 season. Yeah. I get it, but this part of covering the team the way we cover them, you see a lot of different things. I think Josh was having a really fun moment there, and he probably shouldn't have said what he said as it can be perceived. I also love the fact that they're having that much fun on the sideline in the middle of a game. Yeah. I mean, you know, to at least kind of keep it a game, right?
Yeah,
I mean, it gives you a little bit their mentality.
Yeah.
Are you bothered by the rock, paper, scissors nature of this?
I mean,
because Armstead's the other guy, right? So It's either going to be Trayvon or Josh Hines Allen.
Yeah.
Does it matter who's in the game on that other side? Is it one or the other?
No, I mean, to me, it doesn't. I think that they're both great players. I think they're both staples, pillars of this defense. But obviously, I like both of them in there at all times. I mean, and that's me being selfish, right? Because you can't. It's unrealistic to expect, you know, defensive linemen to play the entire game. So there has to be rotation. I understand that. But once again, we're talking about a pretty pivotal moment, I feel like. Well, it was third quarter, correct?
Well, yeah, they were down 22-8 at that time in the third quarter. Yeah. But you got to remember one thing, right? They had just got the ball back.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah. So, like, you're fresh.
You should be pretty fresh.
Yeah.
You should be pretty fresh.
Yeah.
But keep this in mind. I want to say one thing about in defense of the Jags on this. It was a couple weeks ago, right, where Josh Hines Allen had like 90% of the plays and I think 80% for Trayvon. Well, I didn't look at this, but I'm going to assume, and we might even have talked about this a little bit on Monday, there were so many plays in that game, especially in the first half for the Philadelphia Eagles. They were dominating the clock. They had the ball for 22 minutes. That percentages might be down a little bit, but the plays were probably very similar.
Correct.
So at this juncture, later in the third, about 5 minutes ago in the third, they had probably played a lot of football to that point. They were on the field a ton in the first half.
Yeah.
But I do get this. There's this nature where nobody wants Armstead on the field right now, and everybody wants these two guys on the field like all the time.
Correct.
It's not realistic, though.
No, it's not realistic. But once again, I would prefer I mean, I thought I was going to stop talking about this, but now here we are again.
Gonna have to mute you.
You know where I like Armstead to. I know. Just go ahead and mute me, man. You know where I want Eric Armstead to play, and that's all I'm going to say about it.
You know, we didn't have this part of it. Josh said earlier he was talking about his 2 sacks. He gave a lot of credit to Armstead on one of the sacks, and I don't remember the actual play, and I hadn't gone back and looked at it, but in the conversation, and I don't even know if he was, I'm assuming on that one he was playing from the inside. Did he play from the inside a little bit?
Yeah, I think it's when he got the internal. I'm going to have to go back and look at it myself. I don't know.
But he gave credit to Armstead because they were chipping Josh at that time. After it was a second sack for Josh.
Okay.
So the first one, after he got his first one, they started chipping him a lot more, is what he ended up saying. And then Armstead really helped him. So, like, right now, Armstead's got like this, just like this, such negativity around him, right? Mm-hmm. From his play, from the amount of play, from where he's playing. And now the latest one, of course, is when Ryan Nielsen said, you know, we asked him, or he wanted to play the edge, and then he said yesterday in an interview, like, they wanted me to play the edge. I think we're breaking down stuff too much. The bottom line is the Jags' game plan for them was to play the edge, and that's what they brought him in here to do. Didn't matter who wanted it or whatever. They've got the ultimate say, right?
No, they do, but I think it does matter where if you're trying to Because he was a free agent, correct? Yeah, that's right. Okay. So I think it does matter then when you're trying to get a free agent here. Like, I thought it was under the premise of, okay, Eric Armstead wants to be defensive end, and he's only going to go to a team that wants him to play defensive end. That's what I thought it was. Okay, like that, because that to me made a lot more sense than just saying, hey, let's take a guy who's had his most success playing defensive tackle and just bump him to defensive end. So I thought this was more an Eric Armstead. But then when you hear, like, no, this is more maybe of a Trent Baalke, Ryan Nielsen type of thing, well, then, yeah, I take a little issue with that. Because any film that you watch in San Francisco would say, like, why would you risk it? What is the overall gain of moving him to defensive end when you see him play defensive tackle and he's had a lot of success?
Yeah, and so to me, when you do that, Austin, it goes back to the plan. Like, I think there's going to be a little bit of he said, she said coming off the Armstead interview versus the Nielsen interview. And in my opinion, it's like, do you guys put a plan together like this? It doesn't matter really. Like, I don't care about who did what or why did what. It's more, why did you do it? Like, to your point,
well,
you know the best tape is him on the inside. Like,
correct.
Why did you think this was going to work for the amount of money you're going to pay him, for him coming off injury, for him coming across the country and joining this team and this group and helping you get over the top? Why was the edge the place that it was going to be? This just reeks of Miles Jack playing different positions and Taven Bryant playing different positions, and whether it was Trayvon being talked to dip inside. I mean, I thought that's what. Where's that conversation gone? By the way, where's the Trayvon Walker dipping inside conversation gone? Has he even done that?
You can't afford, because you don't have any edges.
Yeah.
So he has to play outside because it's all you got.
But remember, that was the big story. Like,
no,
okay,
sure,
how about,
but
to do it?
But
right?
you know where I stood on that too as well.
No, I know where you stood, but I'm just saying, like, we haven't even seen him do that. They've never utilized. They have two players right now that we think could be better on that 3 technique spot than what they've got.
Correct.
Fair enough?
Correct. Yes, very fair.
And we've hardly seen them play there. Now, we can't say exclusively we haven't seen them play there.
Yeah.
But we've hardly seen them play there.
Yep.
And to me, that's kind of baffling.
Yeah.
But that's the plan, right? That's not, hey, why did you sign here, or why did you sign him? You got a good enough player that could really help you out if you just kept him right now at 3 technique, probably.
Of course. And once again, breaking my own rule of talking about this again, because you know where I stand on this, but I'm just watch any film. And to answer the chat comments, I think I see, like, to answer the question, Eric Armstead did play defensive end as well as defensive tackle. And I forgot who. Was it Solomon Thomas they brought in from Stanford?
I think you're right. Yep. Solomon Thomas.
When they drafted Solomon Thomas, they put him at defensive end. I'm sorry. I think they put him at 3, and then they moved Eric more to the outside. But, like, if you watch, like, the highlights and everything of, like, when Eric Armstead got his sacks, it was still out of, like, we call it the NASCAR package, things like that, where he was rushing from the inside. So that's where my premise was saying, like, hey, keep this guy on the inside because he showed he can play on the inside. Like, when it comes to the outside, he's not as good. And it's baffling to me that you would take a player who's had a lot of success playing the inside, and all of a sudden you say, hey, you know what, Eric, we like what you do, but we want you to play this position because, well, I don't know, I guess my scheme's going to predicate you playing it. Like this almost like contradict, like it goes upon itself with Ryan Nielsen saying we're going to put our players in the best position to succeed. That's not true.
No.
That's why I never bought into the whole Armstead narrative, him playing defensive end. I'm like, there's no way he's going to be doing that. Well, I was wrong, and here we are now.
Yeah. Is there anybody else you think right now that's not in the best position to succeed where you think they
defense?
Should be? Like, Devin Lloyd, is he now in a spot where you think he should be? Or
I mean, I was the big proponent that you keep Foye Aluakin, you keep him on the middle, and you put Devin on the outside, use more blitzes, use the speed, things like that. Like, I was a big proponent of that, but
yeah. And the secondary, who knows? They started with Antonio Johnson, that didn't seem to work very well, right? And now they got Darnell Savage because Jarian Jones is the nickel. They moved Savage out. You almost kind of wonder if Savage is kind of pissed off because, and I don't sense that at all. He's a guy we just don't talk to very much, and he's been in and out of the lineup.
Yeah.
But he's the one that's had to go save the safety spot a little when Antonio wasn't playing well. That put Jarian in, and Jarian's been a better fit there. So. But Savage came down here, it seemed like, to play the nickel spot, right?
Yeah. Well, let me ask you, I mean, I agree with you, and I think a lot of people are frustrated right now with that defense.
I know it. Yeah, there's a lot to pick apart.
But if we talk about Armstead, and, obviously Baalke has... So do you think this is more of Baalke, or this is more of Ryan Nielsen saying, like, hey, we have, maybe like another Cam Jordan on our hands here. Let's put Eric Armstead on the outside. Like, do you think Baalke was more... in line of, this guy on the outside, long arms and everything, defensive end, we like him, or is this more Ryan Nielsen?
Man, I just go to. Well,
because
that's a good question.
To echo the point in the chat, which is a great point, I can't really see who said it.
Nathan Dean, yeah.
I mean, Bulky knows Eric Armstead.
Yeah.
So he should have said something like, hey, I don't think this guy should be playing on the outside unless it was Bulky's idea in the first place.
I don't know that, and I just think it looks to me like a collaborative effort when you're sitting in meetings and you're hiring a defensive coordinator and you're putting together a plan. I just come back to the plan. When you put together a plan to how to build the team, how you want to play, what's this going to look like, what players you need in the free agency and the draft. To me, this is all a January, February, March thing for the Jacksonville Jaguars, and this is where they made an error because everything we go back to is this is the way they planned that it could work. And when it doesn't work, well, that means your plan didn't work. Yeah. And there's really not a lot of ways out of that. We've said that. We thought that in the first 2 weeks, in fairness to the offensive line. We thought they calculated the offensive line to be a good offensive line and take another run at Sheriff and obviously bring in Morse and you've got Cam and Ezra Cleveland. Well, the first 2 weeks, holy cow, it was terrible. And we were saying this. Yeah. And we're really probably 3 weeks after Buffalo game. Like, it's just a miscalculation. What can you do? You can't just go get 3 new offensive linemen. They hung on too long for shit. Well, you know what? They turned that around. They really did. Like, we have to admit that. We were saying one thing 3 weeks into the season, and it's really turned into something else. They've kind of figured that plan out. They were right. They were more right than we were right through the first 3 weeks. But so far, everybody else has been right, and the league has been right more than Bulky, Nielsen, Peterson have been correct on this defense, right? And that's fair to say. Yeah. The other part of the offense in terms of the plan is not really a plan problem for me. It's just an execution problem. You got to figure out the third downs and how to get off the faster starts, which probably is third downs. Yeah. And if you can figure that out, then.
So do you think that this defense, and maybe we can say offense, but I want to focus more on the defense. I know that's what we're on. Do you think more of this defense's problem is the scheme with Ryan Nielsen not fitting his players, or is it the personnel that Trent Baalke has established? That is, Trent Baalke has put together.
I think right now, I would say this is more on Ryan Nielsen.
Okay.
In his plan, in the way or the Doug hiring him with this plan. Okay. Because I think adding people's weight, doing all these I don't think it's all worked. I think these are good players. I think they have good. If you give me Josh Hines-Allen, Trayvon Walker, Eric Armstead, and Devon Hamilton across my front four, I feel very good about that. We're not wrong about that. I think we feel good about that. You got a Pro Bowl linebacker. You've got a very, very good corner. Now I think they've been deceived by their safeties. Their safeties have not played well. Okay. And Nielsen probably has to take the brunt of that, but Cisco has not played as well as he should this year, and that's been a pain spot for this defense too.
Okay. See, and once again, the scheme obviously isn't, you're not getting the maximum potential out of it, but I think of your job as a GM is to address needs that you needed last year. And the biggest need last year was interior pass rush. Well, it was really interior play in general, but primarily interior pass rush. Has that been addressed?
No. But that's because you're playing them in a different spot. We thought it got addressed.
Well, yeah, but there's more than one player than Eric Armstead. You also drafted some guys too that I think you thought were going to come in and make a difference. And Eric Armstead, listen, when Josh Hines-Allen and Trayvon Walker are in the game, I've seen Eric Armstead bump down to a 3 technique and rush from the middle.
Yeah, so maybe you just didn't pick him right? Or Mason Smith hasn't been playing. Now, he's a little banged up, okay? Before, we thought it was more coach's decision. Now he's banged up. You traded away Roy Robertson-Harris, so maybe that is more bulky. You don't have enough. And here's the deal. That's a good – I do put it on bulky from their lack of edge depth and also right now their immediate help if Armstead didn't work. You had to have a little bit of a backup plan, right? Correct. Because he's an old, aging player that coming off injury. Yep. So,
and then you traded away Travis Gibson, didn't address the edge of the draft at all till the later rounds. And then you decided to make Abdullah a strong side linebacker.
Yeah, it's kind of like this whole season, man. It's like, okay, I can put some blame on Baalke there. I can put some blame on Nielsen there. I can actually put some blame on some of the players there, So I think there's a lot of people to blame. Well, if Mac Jones plays, this is why they got him, right? To be a backup that has experience. How much confidence do you have in Mac Jones?
Yeah. I mean, I guess we'll see. I mean, I'm not as confident as Trevor Lawrence, obviously. Yeah, I mean, I think he can go out there and maybe be an upgrade from a game manager. I think like he can kind of will a team to score some points, but you kind of had an offense that hasn't really found its rhythm with Trevor Lawrence, and now you bring in Mac Jones. Like, can they find the rhythm? I'm not sure. It's a pretty damn good Vikings defense as well.
Yeah, it's a very good defense. I mean, listen, the bottom line is the Jags have been so bad in the first 20 minutes or so of every game. There's only one way to go. It doesn't matter who's playing quarterback right now in that situation. But Trevor's also been very good for the most part, helping the Jags get back into it in the fourth quarter these last couple of weeks. And also, if you take his sample size of the previous month, I thought he was playing really good football. So yeah. I know the Jags are 2-7. I know there's always blame on the quarterback when you're not winning football games. But the bottom line here is, I don't think this has all been Trevor. This isn't like, oh, well, here we go. Now the Jags are going to go on a run with Mac Jones. I'm confident in Mac Jones, by the way. I like Mac Jones. I think Mac's fine. I think they can win a football game with Mac Jones. All of that makes a lot of sense. But I still think it's better to have Trevor Lawrence in.
Do you think Mac Jones can beat the Vikings? Because, I mean, you're confident the Jaguars are going to win this weekend. Do you think they're still going to win now with Mac Jones?
Yeah, I lose a little bit of that. I mean, that feels a little more blind faith. I don't know what to expect from Mac Jones, other than he'll run the offense pretty well. And they're beat up on that offensive line, so I don't like that part. And I would say this, though. The reason why I thought they could win this game was because I thought their defense would put things together. I think they'd have a plan that's going to be better to at least slow down Minnesota, keep them in the around 20-point range, and the Jags would find enough points. I think the Jags can still find enough points. I'm not all out on the Jags winning the game, but obviously it does. They were already an underdog at home.
No, for sure.
And this makes them a little bit more of an underdog. And I think they're a 4.5. I'm just wondering how much will that line change now with Mac Jones potentially playing in this game. And I think it's important to say, potentially. Like, the Jags aren't saying anything. Doug was non-committal, though. When Doug was non-committal on Wednesday, I thought that really opened the door. The signing of C.J. Beathard really said a lot, that they were like, hey, Mac might have to play this week. We need a backup quarterback. Yeah. So, I mean, the tea leaves are adding up here to that report for me and Rappaport being spot on and might be predicting the future a little bit.
So are you still taking the Jaguars to win or not?
Can I think about it? Sure, I'll stay with the Jags.
What's like your immediate reaction?
Yeah,
okay. I'll say the Jags? Okay, cool. Do you think that they can take Trayvon Walker and put him like at a Taysom Hill role and put him like a Wildcat quarterback or something like that? I'm obviously joking.
No.
Yeah, that was a joke, man. Yeah, I mean, we'll see, man. We'll see. I think with Mac Jones, like I said, I think he can manage the game and he can maybe elevate it a little bit. We'll see. We'll see how great of a quarterback he is, because this is his chance to shine.
It's going to be a really good
because you've been on the bench for a while. You've been hopefully learning the system and everything. And I think some quarterbacks can come in right away and make a difference, and some quarterbacks where it's like, man, I need some time to acclimate a little bit. Like, do you think Mac Jones can come in right away and acclimate, or will he need some time to be like, I have to get my footing, I have to get my flow?
Yeah, I think he's going to take a little bit, but he's also a guy who's got a lot of experience. So jumping back in there, part of the job of backup quarterbacks is to be able to go right in and bam, produce.
Yeah.
And so I think, man, it's really hard to get a feel, right? I mean, they're not playing great football to begin with Trevor. So to sit here and say, oh yeah, the backup quarterback's coming and do a great job. What's going to be really wacky here now is keep an eye on this. If the Jags were to win a football game, it would be the fourth time they won a game in the last 16. And 2 of those wins, if Mac Jones plays, would come with backup quarterbacks. Carolina and C.J. Beathard and Mac Jones in this game. So what a weird deal that is, But here's what I would say. I said this yesterday on the show when this whole thing started to circulate. If they don't play Trevor Lawrence in this game, I don't think they're playing him next week against Detroit. You're now in a situation where why don't you hold him out and then let him then have the bye week too? So you can sit him for 3 weeks.
Sure, but say this was the Titans. Would you play him against the Titans, or you're going to rest him for the bye week? Like, are you that scared of Detroit? Or is this more of
it's not necessarily scared of, it's like, I think the chances of winning the Detroit game, first of all, aren't great. on top of a banged up quarterback. It's not scared of Detroit. I just think if that's the bridge game in this, to get him another week of rest on top of that, whatever the injury is, might make a lot of sense. It probably didn't matter if it was a Tennessee. If you're going to miss this game, it probably doesn't matter if it's Tennessee. I do think in my mind, also, and I know they don't think like this, but I think they have very little chance to beat Detroit with or without Trevor Lawrence.
Isn't that a loser mentality we just talked about?
Well, it is. Okay. And I'm a loser.